Yes, I just want to make sure you can hear me. Sorry, I have a new microphone, so great. Okay, so I'm just gonna go down this list, and I'm just gonna talk to you in chronological order about what I did, what it was like, what I enjoyed, what I didn't, and yeah, so let's get into it. I always find these videos pretty fascinating, so I thought I'd do one for me. And you know, if you enjoy this video, give it a like down below, subscribe, join our membership, do all that fun jazz down below. But let's get into it. So I started working when I was 16, technically. So my first job that I ever had was at an after school at my elementary school. When I was, I think, 15 or 16, I was in sophomore year, and I did that until I was a senior in high school. So sophomore year into sophomore to senior year of high school. And so as a kid, I used to go to after school all the time. So after school, if you don't know, is like elementary school. You have, like you would get off at 3, and then you would, our parents would work. So then there would be like 3 hours where you would go to after school. The after school program, I forgot they did this, but they would bring along high schoolers to like come in a few days of the week to kind of like integrate, hang out with the kids, because I think, kids like adults, but I think they had more fun with, high schoolers and stuff. I don't know. But when I was in a freshman in high school, my old after school person that runs after school boss actually reached out to me, like I think on Facebook, and asked if we could, get ice cream, and we did. And then she asked me and offered me the job of, coming after my high school days. I think it was like pick a day of a week. I chose Fridays, and I would go after school. When I would get off high school, and I would go to after school, and yeah, and so I'd be there for three hours, and that was the first official job that I got paid. It was like minimum wage for 3 hours, so it wasn't a lot, but I loved it. I really love kids, and I loved hanging out with them. What I would do, it was basically very simple. I would just go and like hang out with kids. So it would break down into like they would have snack, and then they would, I think, all come together for some meetings, and then they would break off into like activities, and I could just go to any activity, and yeah, that was very fun. I did that literally for 3 years, and two of my other friends, or two other high schoolers, also did it as well. But I had siblings that went to the elementary school or not, and they would work either, like one of them worked Monday, one of them worked Wednesday, and I worked Friday. So we did that. It really wasn't very much a job. It was just very much like, I think, an added plus for them to have me around. I got offered babysitting jobs. I never took any, but I loved it. I remember my favorite thing about that job was, it was so funny because the guy before me that did it, he was very into sports and, playing around and everything. And I think they wanted me to do that initially, but I like sports, but I actually am way more into art. So I would go to the activities for like drawing and like playing puzzles and like all that stuff, and they didn't mind, obviously, but I think it was funny. I remember being in high school and being like, oh, I'm not very like into the sports, so but it was very, very, very fun and everything. So yeah, that was my first official job. Went for 3 years, and it was actually a little wild. I'll tell you something, not to get, I know we're relaxing, but remember the Sandy Hook thing that happened? My town is not in Connecticut, so I'm really close. I'm from the East Coast, but my town sounds similar to the name. So when that happened, I was actually working. It was in the morning on a Friday, and I had to go to elementary school to do this job right after. And I remember just feeling super, sad and weird. But my town sounds similar to the other towns, so everyone thought it happened to ours. Yeah, so it was just interesting that happened. And I was working at elementary school when that occurred. It counselor in the summer. This could have been technically my first job since I did like a CIT program, which is a counselor and training program when you're 13 or 12. So it's like, it's weird. You pay to do this, which doesn't sound right, but you basically pay them. You go on field trips and stuff, but they also you basically assist teachers and camp counselors to basically eventually get hired by the camp. So that could have been technically my first job, although I didn't get paid. And I did that when I was 13, and then I officially became a camp counselor when I was like 16 or 17. I did that in the summer, and that made a lot more money. I think it wasn't like crazy though. I think it was like $500 a week or something, which is good, but you're working like a full, it's for 5 days of the week, you get there at 8, you end at like 5, but I loved it. I worked with first graders, and my job, I was like an assistant junior counselor or whatever, so I would like first graders, so they had like younger kids that were like in preschool, then they had like first graders, second graders, third graders. Second and third graders, they kind of do their own thing, so it's like you'll meet in the morning if you're a counselor, and then they have their schedule, and they'll like are independent. Preschoolers, you need to be with them all the time, like take them to the bathroom and everything. First graders, it's a hybrid. The first graders, you have like the first 2 classes of the day, you're like all together, and then like they do their own thing, but you like kind of chaperone them, but then you kind of don't. So I loved it. It was one of my favorite jobs to date because kids are so fun, especially first graders when they're really cute, so they're still innocent, and you can kind of like play around with them in the sense of like you can joke. Like I used to tell them that Nickelodeon was named after me, because it is, right? And obviously they found out that it wasn't, but you could kind of like tease them a little bit and have very fun, and they're very adorable and very innocent and cute, and then we would do, like, I would read to them, we'd have reading time, and, I'd take them to swim, and a lot of them, like, I think at that age it's really beautiful, because a lot of them are very emotional as well, like, they haven't been wired to, like, have walls up necessarily, so they're not, like, guarded, so, like, if they feel things, they feel things, and everyone's just very sensitive around them, which makes, like, all the counselors also really sensitive around everyone, and it was very much a bubble. And I did that for 3 years until I did it when I was in college for like the first year, and then I think I stopped when I was a sophomore in college. I really do miss that job. So my favorite highlights was working with the kids. My other favorite highlight is like my sister and I, you would have an off period, so periods, they were like 6 periods in the day. And like I said, for first grade, you'd be like the first 2 periods. You would be together, and then the last, like the other ones, they would do their own thing. So like period 3, it would be one period, 1, 2, 3. Then it would be lunch. Then it would be 4, 5, 6. My sister and I would always take like period 5 off. You can take a period off when you're a counselor, and we would drive home really quickly, watch the Food Network channel, like Aina cooks or whatever. I don't know if you know who Aina is, but on the cooking channel, she is so wholesome. She's like this, I think she's this Italian woman, or Giada too, but we would lay on the couch, watch the cooking channel, take a quick nap, and then we would drive back for the last period. In the last period, the first graders would be back together, and we would do like the reading, or we do like a fun little thing before and then this was cute, we would always like go outside, we would walk them to their car, get them buckled in, do all that stuff. So it was really wholesome, very, very nice. Like, I think I really appreciate it. If you were ever a kid or you have kids, I would definitely, make them do camp and camp counselors, because it really makes you appreciate kids and growing up. I don't know, like, in responsibility. Like, I was an adult, or I felt like I was taking on really hard stuff in life, not hard, but like college, and life throws things at you when you're working with after school, and basically all my kid and daycare work in high school, which was my first jobs, and then I went basically to the sophomore year of college. I went to school in New York. Oh, well, there's one more job. There was one more job. I went to school in New York, but then also I was a camp counselor. Are you ready for this? My third job that I did was J. Crew. I know, your boy worked as a J. Crew employee. So if you don't know, J. Crew is a retail store for men and women. I think mostly for women, but there is a men's store, and I really used to love J. Crew, and it's very, I don't know how you describe it, but it's very, think like boat shoes, very like, I think preppy New England, just preppy in general, very nice clothing. I worked there over the summers, for the last 2 summers, I think, that I did camp counselor, so probably when I did senior year and freshman year of college, and that was fun. So I did that because I wanted to, I think, do something else besides daycare. I wanted to feel like I was like learning something, and just, you get bored. So I did J. Crew senior year, like the last year, and I would go after camp sometimes. I think I went like Wednesday and Fridays, like 2 days a week. It wasn't enough because I remember my manager was like, "We want you to come in more," and I was like, I'm sorry, like I can't. But that was an interesting job. My favorite thing about J. Crew is, if you don't know, you work at J. Crew, it's like 6 hours, kind of like a barista job or anything, and you get to wear a headset so you all can talk to each other. So our store was really notorious for like really rich women coming in and stealing for fun. So they would bring in, and I saw this, they would bring in like their baby, and they would bring in their baby into a stroller, and then they basically would, put sunglasses on the baby, and then they'd try to like leave, and so we would be on the speakers being like, "Is anyone catching this? Let's like ask about the sunglasses. They're coming up to you," all of that fun jazz. So so that was J. Crew and stuff, and so J. Crew was cool too, because like at the beginning you would get free apparel, so they would give you like 2 outfits for free. You had to wear J. Crew apparel, but then you get like 50% off of if you ever bought anything for clothing wise there. I got good clothing, I hit up my brother and got him good clothing, my friends good clothing, all that stuff. So it was good. I love doing the cashier and stuff, but I think I got a little sick of it, because they're kind of in the same place doing the same thing for a bit, and it's fun, but yeah, I think what else do we have to do? So I'm trying to remember the specifics. So you would have to fold the clothing, put them back on the racks. You would have to say hi to customers when they came in. You would have to ring them up on the register. You would have to stock things. I remember we would have like quizzes. You would have to, know everything about the clothing, and like where it came from, and it came from Japan, and all that good jazz and everything. So yeah, it was fun, but I didn't do that long, and it was interesting. I remember when I was working, and there were like upperclassmen that I worked with that I never like really interacted with from high school that did it. But yeah, I did J. Crew as well. Then I went to school, and I'm very grateful I didn't have to really work during school, but I did choose a name to work in school, I think like the last 2 years of school, and I became as many of you know I am right now, a barista. So I wanted extra cash, as many of you probably do when you go to college or school, so I picked up a gig. I think it was so remember how I ended camp freshman year of college, so then I went to NYU, so I was in New York, and then I spent the summer in New York, and I needed a job, so I got a barista job, and this is where I first learned to be a barista. What a place to learn did end up being let go from that place, but I'll tell you all about that in a little bit. But I worked there for around like 2 years or so, on and off from school. So when school started back up, I would go part-time, and then I would go back in the summer. But I learned, it was interesting, it was like a cafe, and I found it out through a friend who worked there and had recently stopped working there, but put in a good name for me, and I got the gig, and they were initially looking for servers, so I'm also technically a server, I guess, but I only did it for a little. Well, yeah, so it was like a restaurant. I like served food and brunch and everything. That's what I did. I guess I forgot that I did that before. I should put that on my resume if I ever want to do restaurant gigs. But it was really bougie food. It had Oprah Winfrey's favorite chocolate chip cookie of all New York. But it was really, really stressful. I remember that. So like, it was in Tribeca, and it was all really bougie. Tribeca in New York City, if you don't know, that's like where all the celebrities live. So I saw one of my favorite celebrities from Sense8. Sorry, I was thirsty, but there's a really good show on Netflix called Sense8 that came out when I was working there, and I met one of the actors there. Her name is Freema. If you watch the show, it's the black girl that's has a relationship with the trans woman. That show is amazing. I really, really love it. So you saw famous people there, but my manager, they expected me to be at a caliber that I was not there, and so I had to train up to it, but along the way, they weren't very graceful with me or anything, so it was very hard. I remember feeling very stressed, and it was a lot of work, but I got there, and I made decent money. I remember we had some events, some private events that I would work, and for like 2 hours, I'd make like $300, and I was like, that's absurd, but it's also one of those things that, like, as you get older, I don't think you don't learn to appreciate your first jobs, as like you don't have a reference. So I thought that was cool, but I didn't know how special that was until later. But yeah, I ended up working there. I ended up learning how to become a barista. Ooh, this was a journey. So I was like at the restaurant, and then I eventually opted to the front and like kind of learned. I took some like classes. They sort of wanted to teach me what they sort of did. I learned how to do shots, and then I sort of learned to do latte art, but they never taught me. It was more like, you just do this, and then like they'd be teaching me while we were like doing it, right? So one time, I've also seen like Owen Wilson and stuff, but one time, I thought this was so funny. I was like, this would happen. There was a video crew that came in that wanted to do a video about the coffee shop, and they came up behind, and I was working the bar, and they definitely wanted like good latte art, but I was just so new to it, so I was so stressed out, and I think I gave them like a really bad art or something. But I remember being really stressed out by that. Latte art is very difficult to do. You need the perfect steamed milk, and then you need another motion, and then while you're learning that, I was a newbie, so I could barely do it when I was just like going on the grind. But then to have someone film you, oh my lord! So I did that, but yeah, I remember they were a little like, I'm grateful for them, because out of all the barista jobs I've had, they implemented me the most, how to be the best one. They implemented me how to like learn about coffee, how to do latte art, how to be professional, how to greet customers. That coffee is an experience. They really shaped how I viewed being a barista, which I really appreciate. I did end up being let go because I was working part-time, and I think they were letting a lot of people go because they had a lot of like part-time people and all that. But also the weeks before, they had a health inspector come in, and they basically shut our place down, and I was working there when that happened, and I don't think that I didn't do anything, but I was trying to be very like, everything's gonna be okay, and maybe that rubbed off the wrong way to everyone, but I kind of doubt it. That's what I thought for the longest time. I'm kind of realizing like they were laying off so many different people that I think I was jumping from shop to shop so often. Like I was working in Greenpoint, and I was working in Manhattan, and like like a floater, so I think what they did is they let me go because they realized they didn't have to hold on to me anymore. It was really bad, and I want to be transparent with you because I think we're all going to be let go from jobs, all potentially could be fired. Hopefully you will be. I think it's a sign that, you're taking risks. Like, I think it's a very normal process. So, like, I'm just being transparent because I know I was good at my job. I knew everything, but it still happened. And I remember it happened on the day that I also applied to be in a writer's group, and I didn't get that. And then I found I got fired, like, via an email of, like, 2 sentences. It was super disrespectful. I knew the boss. The manager sent that to me, and then I ended up sending out a really long email. I waited like 2 days, but I sent a really long email to the boss being like, I'm very disappointed. Like, I really rooted for you guys. The fact that you sent me an email, like, for a sentence after I worked for you for 2 years, like, I thought more of you guys. I was a very, like, valued customer for you guys, and you just lost all my respect, something like that. And they offered me a job back, which was funny, but I didn't take it because my ego is big, which, I don't know. I think that was fine, but I ended up jumping to another coffee shop, and I jumped to one in Brooklyn, near where I lived, and it was way less profitable and way less bougie, and it was like a local coffee shop, and there we learned how to, like, we had to make the food, and it was in a Hasidic Jew community, which is interesting, so I learned how to do all these about different pastries. You want to know something crazy? I hosted remember I said the $300 thing for the host was really nice. I hosted a bar mitzvah at the coffee shop, which is absurd, and the DJ was like in high school, and he blasted the music so loud that my ears were like shattering, and I'm like, now I have ear problems, so maybe it's that, but I had to stay there, so I was like, I couldn't leave and cover my ears, so I had to, like, endure it, and it was the most miserable thing I ever did, and I didn't make, like, any good money off of that. So, and you're like, oh, what would you do at a bar, like, to have a bar mitzvah at a coffee shop? Well, this is what I made. I made, like, iced chocolate milk for them. That's it. Like, it's so interesting. I think it was like the owner's family member or something, so they did that because it was like free or whatever. But that's the job that I had. So then I graduated school, and then I had that job for a year while I was doing screenwriting. I had that job right before COVID, and before that right before COVID, like literally in March 2020, I had my my 6th job, and my first job in entertainment, which is what I'm in now for the time being. We're figuring things out. Life is funny. But I was a production assistant for the show Impractical Jokers, which, if you don't know, it's a reality show about these 4 best friends that basically play pranks on each other throughout New York City. They play pranks on strangers, and they embarrass each other. It's been going on for a long time. I think I was on season 11, and it had just started up in March of 2020. I did 2 shows, and then COVID hit, and then I never went back and did any more. But that job, how I got that job was, I had actually been trying to interview for internship. Well, okay, I have other jobs too. I have been an intern. I'll get back to that in a sec, but these are more, well, I got paid. Y'all, I've done a lot of stuff. Let me see, I can jump back in a bit too. I'll do internships in a few, but for this, I got this job because I applied for an internship at the production company. I think it was like North South Productions. They do that, and I got to the last round, and I ended up not taking the internship because it wasn't paid, and I got paid at another one. Sorry, which would have been very interesting to take, but I reached back out and I said, hey, like, if you guys ever need help, let me know. I would love to, like, work on set. And he was like, oh, actually come by the shop. So I came, I met the art director. We had, like, an interview where we just, like, chilled, and then he was like, oh yeah, I'll hook you up. And then he I had just been thrown in. So I've done very embarrassing things. That was my first entertainment set gig, really. I've been a PA before, like for an indie film, but I never like read a call sheet. But for this, I didn't ask, so I think I ended up reading. They have this thing where it's like production office, and so I went to the production office in the morning instead of where they were calling me to go, which was like up. So the production office was in like downtown Manhattan, like in the south, like things right back up, and they were shooting up in the north Manhattan. And so I get to the office on my time, which is good, only to find out I was supposed to be up north. So I end up taking the subway, and I end up being pretty late to the set. I get there, they're setting up. It was really cool. This show, they had to be hidden, so they would get there really early, and then they would hide. And so we all had to hide. But it was like a market, like a food market, and so we were up a level, and so there was all this duvetine, like blacked out curtains, so we're hiding. And so I go up. I've never used a walkie. They gave me a walkie. I find my boss, who's the art director. I'd never done art, and so she was telling me to do things, and I was just such a newbie, so we got green, and she got very frustrated, which, was a hard pill to swallow, but I stayed proactive. I tried my best, and that's all you can do, right? You're always gonna be new at something, so, but she wasn't mad at me. She was sweet, but she was like mad at the guy that sent me, because he's like this, he's clearly never done this before. So the next time I became a PA for Predators, I was just a normal PA, and we were just like chilling in a truck. I basically, all I did was help move equipment in and out of like the hiding spaces. That was it. I met some cool people, but then COVID hit immediately after that, and I went home. I fled back to New England with my family. So that's my first production gig. Some internships I'll say before. So when I was in college, I did internships junior and senior year, and I was lucky that I did a study abroad program. Oh, it was actually my sophomore year of college, was it? Yeah, my sophomore year of college, junior year. I did an internship in LA, where I worked for Will Smith's production company, and Overbrook and Mad Chance, which was on Warner Bros. Lot. So I did this away program through NYU, where I got to work at development companies. A development company, if you don't know, they're the ones that develop scripts, and then they are production companies, but what they do is like, I would read scripts, read stories, do a treatment. So I would basically summarize it all on a page, give it to the producers, and I would either be like, yep, let's like, you should look at this, or no, you shouldn't. If it's a good story, if it's not, and then if they liked it, then they would eventually like buy the rights and start producing the projects. But we were just like catching stories. That's all we were doing, and that was fun. I did that. I got paid at Overbrook. I didn't get paid at Mad Chance, but at Mad Chance I did more than Overbrook. Overbrook, like the dude that was interning me wasn't really there, so I was just coming for half the day, and I'd sit at like the main desk, and I never met Will Smith or anyone, but I was on the Sony lot and also the Warner Bros. Lot, and I walked around. I remember one person told me this, to get a clipboard and act like you knew what you were doing, and I just walked through the stages, and I saw all the sets, and I saw Shameless, and I saw I saw Josh Hutcherson walking by one day on the Sony lot. He's so short, but he's cute. It was funny though, he like looked at me with like, he's like evil eyes, and I was like, what? I'm just walking here. It was an evil eyes, he's fine, I probably overread it. But so I did those internships, and then I also worked at a casting agency that did the Broadway shows in New York, called the Helsing Company, my senior year of college. And I did that because, as many of you know, I went to school for acting, so I was dabbling in like, what, do I love acting? What would other fields be? Let's like, figure it all out. So those are my internships. My next job, so COVID hits in 2020, right? And then my next gig that I do, my next job that I do is I get a job psychologist I know knew a connection through it, so I got that, and I remember she like offered me the role, and they were like, well, can you come here on Thursday? And it was, I think, well, they said, hey, would you be interested on like Saturday? I said yes, and then she was like, let me get back to you on Monday. She got back to me on Monday. She's like, okay, we're gonna need you on Thursday to work. And I was like, okay. So then I packed everything up. I was in New York, back in New York for like literally a day when this happened, and then I flew, which is so wild. I literally gathered everything. I flew on Wednesday, crashed at my friend's place in the closet, and I did that for a month before I found a place, and then I just started working. And to be honest, I've been in LA since, and sometimes life happens to you. You just go with the flow. But I can't believe, it's kind of crazy how fast that switch happened. Yeah. Anyways, I was a COVID PA for the last season of Shameless, so this was a new position for entertainment. So this is why COVID, obviously terrible, duh. But one of the really good pros of it is that it opened up a department in entertainment sets that basically anyone could do. So anyone that was green or new could basically now be on these really elaborate, involved sets like Shameless, because it was a new department. So departments, if you don't know, it's like, you have the electric, you have camera, you have the PAs. The PAs are a department to production assistants. Usually when you're to be a production assistant on one of those shows, you need to have worked other shows and have done really well. And then know the AD who brings you on. But for me, I got to just kind of jump all that, which is wild, and do COVID PA. COVID PA was probably one of the most hardest jobs and humbling jobs I've ever done. My job for all of Shameless was literally to fill up like these. So at set we would have these like wash stations, these sinks, and my job was literally to fill them up and to dump out the dirty water and to move them set to set. And that's what I did. And I did that around all the crewmates. I did that around all the castmates and stuff. And it felt like a janitor job. And so it wasn't, it was very humbling. It didn't look cool. It wasn't cool. It was tiring. And it was really long days. It was like 12-hour days. You start from 6 to 6. They did most shows I realize now do like, they will do maybe like 10 to 10 going to nighttime, but they had kids, like producers and the actors and stuff, so they always did 6 to 6, which was pretty good, but early. And I did it for 6 months. That's how long the season was. And what was wild was I did that. We were one of the first shows to pop back on since during COVID. Like they had no idea what to do with the COVID department. We had these like sticks that we had to like keep and maintain everyone for 6 feet away. We had to have masks. Everyone was testing like every single day. Everyone hated us. Basically, it was not fun to be on set, but this was like my first set experience, so I didn't know that. I know now, like, set is very collaborative and everyone's like moving around talking, but then you couldn't do that. Our department also worked alongside a locations guy, and him and I ended up working together very closely. His job was basically to figure out what locations we were going to figure out where we would, land equipment for us, because we need to get there before everyone else did. And I would be the guy that was doing the sinks and stuff, so him and I basically ended up working together, because I'd be like, okay, like, where do I need to go? And he would tell me, and then I would move everything and all that stuff. So this is important because basically it's important because basically what happens is that he leaves the job. So midway through the season, he actually left the job, and he got like this better promotion gig to do like camera, and so he leaves, and I end up doing the job alone. And I remember being like, wow, this is interesting. This is an opportunity to maybe jump chill and really cool, and they all worked by themselves, and they solved problems, and they made good money, and I talked to locations people, because that's what I did. And so I began to present to the UPM and to everyone that maybe I could take over his job, and so I ended up taking over his job for locations, and I got my days on Shameless, and that means if I get my days, it means I get in the union, and the way that you get in the union is you need someone to basically vouch for you. So the locations manager, it was a lot for him to do, and I really appreciate it, but he had to go to his union and be like, hey, I want to sponsor this guy to join the union, and the only way that you can sponsor someone is if there's no one on the availability list for the union. And thankfully, like right now in the industry, the availability list is filled out. There are way more people that want to work than work there is. It's very annoying. But back then, no one wanted to work because of COVID, right? So because of that, the union was like, yeah, you can hold him on and stuff if you want. You can bring him on because we need the help, right? So I did that. But then once you get sponsored, you have to do like 20 days in locations to get into the union, and we only had like 15 left, so I did 15, and then they held me on for 5 more days to strike out so I could get my days, which is just the kindest thing that ever happened. And then I became a locations assistant. So then that goes into probably my 10th job. Wow. In fairness though, y'all, like my jobs are very project based, so I then became an ALM, an assistant location manager, which I did for Dollface and the flight attendant, and then I did it for movies. An assistant location manager I can talk about a little bit more in depth in like another video, but basically what I do is locations is a lot of pre-production. So we find the locations, we show the directors, producers, we make the contracts, and then when we get to set, everything is basically in other departments' hands. We're just making sure nothing goes wrong, basically. Everything runs smoothly, so we're just like overseeing. An assistant location manager, my job would be to go to set. I would be the set guy, so everything would be handled, but the keys who are up above who made the contracts and stuff, would leave so that they could start their new, locations. This TV went really fast. It was insane how fast the turnover rate was for locations. But I would be there to basically problem solve anything on the day. So if they had any, problems with the buildings, or, I was there. And then I would just, make sure nothing happened. So that's what I would do. I would be on set every day. I would be the last person to leave set. But it would be nice because instead of working 12 hours, like PAs, I would work like 10 hours. I would come in like 2 hours after call, and I would just be there like an hour later than everyone else. So it was pretty good. So I did that, and then I became a key. So I did the contracts and found the locations for two movies that went to Sundance, which was very, very cool. And it's really cool talking about this, but since all this has happened, the industry has changed a lot. So that happened, and then I did my short film Flowers, which many of you know. So I directed my own film, although I didn't get paid for that. And then the strike happened last year, and the strike is still feeling work has not been the same since like 2 years ago when I was doing that. So last year, my next job that I did is I went back to baristaing, and I now work as a barista at a local coffee shop in LA, which I love. I have a lot of friends there, and I ended up doing BA work for unscripted stuff, reality TV. So now I also do production assistant, like the 12-hour days for reality TV, which I love. So I do it for The Masked Singer, which many of you have heard of, but I am a talent PA, so I am basically an assistant to one of the judges, and I adore it. It's amazing, and I'm actually going to be doing the next season in the next month, which will be fun. So that's my role. So I went from, COVID PA to locations, still do barista work, and then I now do like unscripted stuff too, because it's not really, there's not a lot of stuff out there, and that's because there's a lot of like contracts being negotiated for unions and production companies don't like to do projects with the possibility of it being cut in the middle because of a strike, right? So they wait. But we will see. That's kind of all the jobs I've had. I've probably had like little ones, other ones too, that I can always think of, but those are the major ones that I wrote down on this paper. Let me know if you have any questions. We are currently figuring out figuring out what career path I want to go. I love writing and directing, but at a certain point we gotta figure out also how to make a living, right? So I really would love to do this more full time in YouTube, and I'm trying to figure out ways to help this sustain a lifestyle that I can do this for you guys. So if you want to support, please consider clicking that join button. It's the price of a coffee, and it helps me out tremendously, and it helps the channel. All the money goes back to the channel, and that means a lot. But also like and subscribe, help us grow. Let me know which job you found interesting, what job that you think you would give a try, down in the comments below, and I will see you soon, my friend. I hope this was very enjoyable. Let me know your thoughts and how it can maybe be better in the comments down below. But okay, I will see you later. Also, if no one's told you recently, you are so loved, you are so important, you are so special, and the world is so lucky to have you here. Thank you for all the good that you do in the world. I know people might not tell you or recognize it all the time, but that's why I'm here. So thank you. Everyone in our community thanks you as well. And keep being weird. Don't dim your weird life, your weird light, like your weird self. Be weird, be kind to others, allow yourself to be silly, funny, be your kid self. Like, life is too short, have fun, and love each other, please. So, with that, I'll see you soon, okay? Take care of yourself. I guess that's all I was gonna say, but lots of love.